This guy again. Hello?
Hey, Hunter, loving the casual look. I'm hoping that will catch on as a meme.
The casual look? This, like, business casual? It's a
Yeah,
button down.
you're,
Although I
I
don't
mean,
really have an iron. I kind of lost that when I got divorced. So no, I'm just kidding. That's a joke. Joke chat. Joke.
uh,
What did
it's
you
just
want to
some deep.
debate, bro? You've been in here now a couple times, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So what's up this time?
let's see. Let's see. Um, I still want to talk about God, or how I view God anyway.
Okay.
So I feel like we covered stuff. Actually, I want to know something about your beliefs. How did you grow up with what is your understanding of God, the Christian God anyway?
I was taught that God is all good and all powerful and is just and righteous and loves us.
Huh. Okay. Since I'm coming to my religion, I view God as a very terrifying entity throughout the Old and New Testament. It's
Hmm.
something because throughout the rhetoric of the Old Testament, you always hear fear and trembling, and within the original Hebrew, that just means respect because this guy is a unknowable entity,
Sure,
and
I
that's
get that, but not to cut you off,
and
but are you familiar with the approach that I usually take with this when I inevitably just start talking about slavery right away with the slavery in the Bible and stuff? I don't know if we already had
and
that conversation or not.
slavery. You mean that thing that people used to practice when it was really, really common?
Yeah, the thing that is blatantly
And
immoral that God said it was okay to do.
but that's the thing. It was never supposed to be a perfect moral law. It was never meant to be something to be holding. It was for that time. It was for that people. This
But
is why
that
I
law
don't
was
take the
supposed to establish those people to be separate from the quote unquote heathens around them, right? And God did give them certain laws that were to at
what
least work towards purity and whatnot. Yeah, absolutely. That's why God said don't eat shellfish and don't wear mixed fabrics, right?
and why not consider the New Testament
Where it
in the
also
light of
says
it?
to obey your, where it says slaves obey your masters, even those that are harsh. The problem is that God is supposed to be all perfect and all good, like what I told you. That's how I was taught
And
God is.
he is working through a imperfect people. That's the thing.
Okay,
We're
so
not perfect.
but I know that. But God still was able to say not to do things. God, for example, said, "Don't steal." He knows we're not perfect. He knows people are still going to steal, right? But he still said, "Don't steal." So why couldn't you have said,
Okay.
"Don't own other people as slavery or as property?" And instead said, "Yeah, you can buy slaves, give them to your kids as property, and if you beat them and they don't die and they recover in a few days, it's fine. You won't get punished because they're your property."
Yeah. Okay. Let's say okay. In the book of Judges, are you familiar with Samson?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Samson was not a perfect guy. Way he indulged in
Do
prostitution.
you realize?
He
Wait,
violated.
stop, stop. There's a difference between someone God is using doing something imperfect and then God telling them that they can do something imperfect.
But
God,
I'm
for
trying to
example, would
tell.
never have said, "Hey, Samson, you can go down to the brothel and have some fun, buddy." No, he would have said, "That's bad," but he knows humans are still not going to be perfect.
So why not? Well, why not just why does because I'm admitting you to you that slavery is wrong. It's like slavery in the Bible is wrong, but I'm also telling you it's not part of the grand scheme of things. It was for that time period for the Israeli I can't say for the Israel people.
I feel like that's
The,
inconsistent because
it's
God
not
God guided his people to be more moral. That's usually the Christian argument anyway, right? Like God gave us the 10 commandments. God tells us what to do and what not to do in many ways, and then we trust those decisions to be moral, at least from the Christian framework. But if God is then saying you can do these things that are blatantly immoral, that is contradictory to God's character.
that's not that's not really saying anything. You have to understand for the ancient Hebrews and even to the modern Judaic religion,
Mhm.
to understand those instructions that was left in Leviticus and Numbers and whatever, all those Deuteronomic texts, it was to show this can be a better way. This is like a common theme throughout Judaism and Christianity, that this because we have to consider the
The
cultural
better
context of this.
way
And
is owning people as property?
again, because they provided instructions how to treat their slaves better, because
Was it
it was a
better,
very,
really? Do you think it was better, really? You can
I'm
beat
not
them, and if
saying
they recover in a few days, it's okay because they're your property?
no, it's just it was a cultural thing, because a slave was part of the household. That's the thing. It was it was you supposed to
Part of the
treat them
household, because just like
well
your
enough.
sofa's part of your household, dude. Okay, I can give my sofa to my friend if I want, just like God said you can give your slaves to your children because they're your property.
And and I also keep saying to you, this was for that time
Why does
period.
that?
It
Okay,
was
so at
before.
that time, in that time period, God was okay with his people doing something immoral.
I'm saying God, the thing is, God works through us and through our imperfections and
I
everything.
know, but
Like this
God
is why
tells
I
us to
gotta
do the
say,
right thing. God recognizes our imperfections and tells us to do otherwise. He doesn't say just go ahead, go indulge in your imperfections.
you have you have to be pragmatic. We are looking at it from a modern lens,
I feel
through
like it would have been
modern
really
eyes.
pragmatic for God's people to be able to wear mixed fabrics. That probably would have saved them money and time and whatever. May have even been pragmatic at the time for them to be able to eat shellfish, although I do recognize the risk of disease there. So maybe, maybe not. But either way, you could argue this for many different things that God had no problem saying, oh, no, don't do it. But then when it comes to owning humans as property, he's just, seems kind of wishy washy.
Plus, also, okay, in the Torah, right, that divorce is permitted, right?
I think that I think that we need to end this debate because I'm getting a lot of complaints here from this because I've had this debate now 50 billion times. Go watch another one of my slavery debates. Here, listen.
We're being really dishonest, my guy. Like, it's not a good debate. It's not a good conversation because it's just a stupid
How am I being
conversation.
dishonest right now?
Because, in a sense, to me, like as a Christian, this doesn't matter. The slavery debate is really irrelevant now.
Okay.
Like,
The
times
reason
have
that
changed.
I know, but you're not understanding. Okay. There's
I
a
am
dip. No, no,
understanding.
no, no,
I'm
no. You're
disagreeing with
not.
you
No,
here.
you're not because
I
the times
I
change
do
doesn't.
bring this up as a
No,
rejection against Christianity,
no,
as a moral
because the
rejection.
times. Can you stop? Okay. The times changing does not rectify this problem, okay, or reconcile this problem that you're having right now. Because what you have is a clear depiction of God being okay with immoral and imperfect behavior, right? But if God is supposed to
Because
be benevolent and
it
God is supposed to be
works
all good
through
and God is
imperfect
supposed to be
people.
moral, then why would
That's
God deliberately tell Moses to tell his people that from the nations around you, you can buy slaves? Why would
because,
he say this?
because because that was acceptable within that framework. That was the
And if God is
cultural
omnipotent, he
moral
would
framework.
not be subject to any human norms to begin with,
God is beyond kind of human norms, and he kind of sees the whole
except when it
grand
comes to
picture.
slavery. And no, and that's the other thing too. Oh, he sees the whole picture. Really? Then how come people, when they were fighting against freeing slaves here in America, we had Christians invoking the Bible? There were some Christians arguing against slavery, some Christians invoking this Bible. Slave owners justified slavery for a long time by using the Bible. If God sees the whole
And
picture,
you
then he
also
should have known
and
that his words would have been misinterpreted that way. Not to mention, were God's words
people just
even
people
one of you
justify
getting
their own
slaves?
people justify their own evils all the time. And put it simply, the moral law, it takes time to reveal itself over time. Like, like the big part of the New Testament of Jesus challenging the Pharisee and even changing the covenant and all of that. That was part of that. And this, it goes back to my point that this was not supposed to be a universal moral law to apply to all time.
Can you
Like,
just, I
there's
think, I need you to tell me, what do you think my argument is?
I think your argument, again, I give to summarize it, is just more of a moral objection to this. You're saying if God is all powerful, is
Mhm.
all perfect and all knowing, he would have just laid out instruction that slavery is wrong. But
Not even
that's and I'm
necessarily. No. I'm saying even if God had just not said anything, that would have been better. than God saying deliberately that you can do these things. There is a difference between God's people just going out and doing something. For example, if someone said, I love God, and then went and killed a bunch of people, I'm not going to say, oh, look, God is immoral. That doesn't make any sense. That's someone who claims to follow God doing something immoral. But in this case, this is God himself doing something immoral.
I wouldn't say that because again, the Torah, like the actual real world law, things change over time. Things change over time.
I
This I keep saying to you, and you're
Mhm.
not acknowledging at least that this was an imperfect moral law for an imperfect people. This was acceptable during the time. Things we have to take
Okay.
that understanding.
Okay.
Okay?
I just don't think I have any more energy for this argument. You're
Hey,
literally
you made
contradicting
this
God again, though, because if God is objective and has objective morals or brings
but
objectivity to our morality or whatnot, there's no way that God would have to be so subject to the times. It just doesn't make any sense. For example,
it,
if there is a culture that it's acceptable to murder people, well, God says murder is wrong, right? So, well, it was the norm at the time, but it doesn't matter. Murder would still be wrong, right? So, what does
this
the past or it being normal even have to do with anything?
because okay, okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? Can you do me that courtesy?
I
Do you
understand what you're
understand
saying,
what
but it's completely contradictory to an omnipotent God because he wouldn't. Why would he like? It doesn't make sense that he would need to adapt so heavily to the human times and then also be so wishy-washy where it's like sometimes he's like, do not kill people, do not do that, that is bad, and then other times he's like, if you want to have slaves and beat them up a little bit, it's fine by me. Like it just seems very inconsistent.
it's not it's just because there's several doctrines within several sects of Christianity called div, divine revelation or progressive revelation, which I do accept. And I keep and to repeat myself again, this was the Torah is not is not was not
Mm-hmm.
it was not universal law. It was not
I don't care.
anything, although it's
That's
technically
irrelevant.
suzerain,
Who
but
cares?
that goes into a different
Who
conversation.
cares if it's
But
universal law? It was law given to the people from God. So how it doesn't matter if it was universal. It's that here are these specific laws for these specific people from God himself, who I am told is the all-powerful, all-knowing, moral, loving creator, who said you can get slaves.
and again, why does this again? This doesn't really matter to me in the grant. This doesn't really matter
It
to me
shouldn't.
as a
God is the
Christian.
same
This is
today,
why
yesterday, and tomorrow, right? God is always the same. So the God in the Old Testament that said that you can get slaves and beat them is the same God that apparently is telling us now that he loves all people.
it's the same God that also sacrificed himself and shared the
Yeah, the same
pain
God that
and burden of
sacrificed
humanity.
himself as or as a sacrifice, the same God who sacrificed himself so that we would have a chance to get into heaven. But why could we not get into heaven again? Because God made the rules. God's all powerful, but he decided, I'm going to make these set of rules, and humans are never going to be able to live up to it. So then they're going to have to believe in me. So God is essentially sacrificing himself to save us from himself.
That's not how that works. None
Okay,
of what
go
you just
back and
said
look into the
works.
slavery thing and then call back. The reason my patience is short with you is because you've called in multiple times and every time you're
Hey, you're being
okay. Adios.